What's going on, guilty guys and gals, and welcome to another ranking video. Boy, it's been a while, but you know how ranking weeks go. As soon as I'm finished with something and I need to take a little break in between playing stuff, it's when they show up. Today is Your Turn to Die characters, which was shockingly hard to find actually a tier list for this that actually had all the characters. Like, I was looking at one and I was like, oh yeah, this looks right, and then I realized it didn't have Q-taro, and I'm like, that's like one of the main characters. How do you not have Q-taro? Anyway, let me just preface beforehand, because when I did Danganronpa character tier lists, people didn't really understand how I was ranking them. I'm not ranking these on specifically how well written they are. I'm ranking them on how much I like them. So I'm probably not going to rank Q-taro super high. That doesn't mean I think he's a poorly written character. He's just not a character that I would be super buddy-buddy with. Okay? You get what I mean? I don't really like his antics, but that doesn't mean he's poorly written. However, that doesn't mean that writing doesn't affect the list a little bit. Because if a character is exceedingly well written, it might make me like them more. And if a character is exceedingly poorly written, it might make me like them less. But that's not what I'm basing it on a broad scope. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I've sort of organized these, not really. I basically just did, you know, main characters, then the doll floor masters. I guess So should be here then. I don't know why I left Megumi. I guess because Megumi's had more speaking lines than Kana's sister. I don't even remember Kana's sister's name, so I guess that explains why. And then the dolls from Chapter 3A. So yeah, let's start with Sarah. Alright. So as protagonists go, Sarah is okay. I like that the story actually affects her. I just wish she had a bit stronger of a personality one way or the other, because it feels like she's more of a circumstance than a person a lot of the time. Like, everything is happening to her, but it doesn't feel like she's got any influence on anything. And that may be intentional, because clearly there's something more to why Sarah is part of this whole scenario, which again, I don't really like that so much either. We'll see how it works out in the end, because I still don't know yet. I should probably preface this too, in case you're watching this after the full game has come out. This is back when only Chapter 3A was released, so I've got no idea what happens after that. The last thing that happened is Keiji got pushed in a coffin. And that was it. And also spoilers, but I think that should be obvious. So I'm just going to put Sarah in B, like right in the middle. You know what, let me do this. I've seen people do this recently. It leads to a lot less confusion. So this is like average. So not bad, not good. Not bad, not amazing, I should say. We'll put A as amazing. And S as spectacular. Yeah, okay, I did spell that right. For a second I was like, wait, did I spell that wrong? B is average, C is meh, and D is no thanks. So yeah, Sarah's kind of middle of the road, but that's kind of pretty common for protagonist characters. I don't know. I like that she actually has some relationships with certain people. In fact, she has relationships with most of the characters. Other than, like, Mishima, Q-taro, Kai, like, the older characters, she doesn't seem to really get very much time with, other than Keiji. But, the characters that are her age, she tends to have at least a rapport with, which is interesting, now that I'm thinking about it. But, yeah. Next is Joe. I'm going to put Joe in A. I don't think Joe is quite S tier. Specifically because we didn't get to see much of his like thinking process at the end of Chapter 1. It would have been nice, like we did see him moping in the bar, which makes sense if he got the sacrifice card. But it would have been nice to see him have like a sort of not obvious conversation about what they were talking about, but you know, something that more led him to cement his decision to either try to get out with Sarah or just not to let... It would be nice if before the moment of his death he had decided that he wasn't going to pursue leaving alone with Sarah. Either that or the other way. He should have probably made a choice before the trial, right? That would have made it more dynamic. If he chose to forsake everyone to try to save Sarah, that would be interesting. And if he chose not to forsake everyone, even though he could save Sarah and himself, that would also be more interesting. That said, I do like him as a character and like who he is, so that's why he's in A tier. And I don't know, Joe's just pretty good. What can I say? Next is Keiji. I really don't know how to feel about Keiji, honestly. I'm gonna put him in meh, I think. The game really wants to lean into the fact that this guy is on your side and you should like him as your ally, but I just do not get good vibes from him all the time. Like, every time I talk to him, I'm like, oh, I want to walk away. And I don't know. I feel like this is also going to be intentional because they focused on Keiji way too much, not for him to be important somehow in the end. But it just feels like the game's kind of forcing him a little bit. Whereas it's kind of funny because the game really doesn't force you to interact with Joe that much, despite the fact that he's very important to Sarah's character arc in like Chapter 2 and Chapter 1. Where it does force you to interact with Keiji all the time, and it gets kind of annoying sometimes. So yeah, meh for Keiji. He's alright. I'm going to put my cursor up here. Kana. I'll put Kana in A tier. I really didn't expect her to go anywhere as a character. I really thought she was going to be like the emotional bait. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I just feel bad for her all the time. And I kind of do, right? For like Chapter 1, it's like, oh my god, all these terrible things, and you're just a small child. Like, yeah, that's pretty rough. I get it. But it's actually really nice to see her kind of like grow up as the game goes on. I should also say that I chose the Kana route and the Riko route. So I don't have as much to say about Alice and, well, I've still got a ton to say about Shin, but Kana, I don't know. It's just very interesting to see her go from like crying constantly to being kind of stoically willing to try to protect everyone. To like, I think the way that she said it was to be able to do something, like to be able to make a difference. It's actually a very good character arc. I just wouldn't say spectacular because S tier, you know, it's for like outstanding characters that like I genuinely think are the best. Kana is very solid as a character. I quite like her and what she is representing. So that's good. I'm going to put Now in B as well. I really like Now. The problem is she just didn't go anywhere. Chapter 1 with Now kind of having like her in her grief messing things up and all that, and then it feels like she kind of wanted to go the same direction as Kana, but she didn't really. The monitor, I really thought she was the one who smashed the monitor, and that was going to be her moment of like moving forward, but Riko did it for her, and her moment of moving forward was tricking the other Mishima. Which I think was almost a little too late for me to really enjoy her character fully. And then she just dies. I think that's the worst part, because I really don't... There are more people in the group who could have died and it not made a difference. Like, if Kyutaro, for example, or who else would be alive at that point? Well, the problem is Riko and Alice. I feel like if Riko or Alice's switch was to do with the sacrifice card and who ended up with it, and instead one of them would die and Now could move on, Now would be much better of a character to receive Kyutaro's development in Chapter 3 of like, I'm not giving up on anyone, right? I'm not afraid anymore, that kind of a thing. Then again, it does suit Kyutaro, and he desperately needed some character development, so I don't know. I just feel like Now kind of got wasted at the end of Chapter 2. It's just very sad. She also got way overshadowed by Shin in that chapter. Shin or Kana. Either way, their death would overshadow Now's at that point, which honestly happened in Chapter 1 too with Kai. It's kind of unfortunate that's how the game works. Next is Mishima. I actually think Mishima is really solid as a character. Apparently he's not even that old. I think I saw in a comment somebody said he was like 40s, and I don't know, he looks like he's in his like late 60s to me. It's just the gray hair, I guess. However, I really like the way Mishima interacts with everyone as like this very wholesome mentor character, but also the fact that in the like flashback after his death, you kind of figure out that like he had a troubled past and his way of atoning is trying to help people who are troubled now. It's nice. And you know what? I really wish we could have seen more of it, honestly. That probably would have been for the betterment of the group as a whole. But then again, his death is one of the easiest ones to give meaning to, like, the first death of the game. If it was somebody else, I might not care as much. So, you know. But yeah, I like Mishima. And Now would not have any character if it wasn't for him. So, you know. Next is Kyutaro. Kyutaro's going in meh, too. I understand what they're going for with Kyutaro, and I actually really appreciate what he does for the story. But it feels like they put all the weight on him to carry the conflicts for the story. It's like him and So carry every single conflict. I don't know. The idea of having a character in one of these scenarios who is very... what's the word for it? Value-based makes a lot of sense. I just wish they actually went all the way with it. Also, the fact that some of his character development is locked behind the root choice is kind of annoying. Because if you choose to not kill doll Rico and real Rico dies, then Kyutaro actually takes the poison shot for Gin, which actually like is his first step towards his character development in Chapter 3. And it's really sad that you don't get to see that if you do the Rico route, which I think most people probably would do, because first time playing, you'd have no idea that's even a route change. You just want to save Rico if you can. So yeah, it's kind of sad that Kyutaro doesn't really give very much, but it also leads him to be kind of unlikable. And also it makes it feel like his dramatic moment in Chapter 3 is kind of unearned a little bit. I don't know. It's not that I don't get where Kyutaro is coming from, but at the same time, it doesn't make him the most likable person. Next is Kai. Honestly, Kai needed way more to be a character I care about. The idea of him being basically Sarah's bodyguard, it's so dumb to me. I don't know. The fact that he's been told to watch Sarah from a distance, okay, I understand that. You're working for this organization that's probably trying to scout out people to kidnap. You don't want them to know that you've got eyes on them. But then why does Kai just be seen all the time? Like, I know that he was like a bad killer, but that was because he didn't like to kill people, right? The fact that he should be probably better at hiding. Like, the fact that Kai was stalking Sarah should have been a revelation that happened during the game, not something that Sarah already knew about beforehand. Because, honestly, if he got found out, I feel like the organization would be like, Kai failed again. I guess we'll have to, you know, restart or whatever. I don't know. I feel, because if this is like some sort of experiment, no matter what it is, if it's an experiment or if they're just kidnapping people, either way, the fact that Sarah knew Kai was watching her ruins the whole point. So I just think that's a really weird choice to take it. If he was like someone who Sarah found out was stalking him during the game, maybe so accesses the laptop and tells you that Kai was stalking you, then maybe his death would feel a little bit more emotional. Like, you'd feel... To have Sarah, like, pour no emotional weight onto his death and put it all on Joe's, and then find out that he devoted, like, years of his life to protecting you, then I would feel a little bit better about it. But if he cared so much about Sarah, why did he not just tell her? Like, he was doing all this work behind the organization's back anyway. I don't understand Kai. I just really don't understand Kai. Plus, his character's kind of boring in the actual game. He's just like, oh, I'm very stern and proper, and sometimes I say a quirky thing. And that's it. He doesn't really go anywhere, and it's kind of annoying to me. Next is Gin. I think Gin is very solid, too. As a kid character in a scenario like this, it's nice that we have both sides of the same coin, like both sides of the coin. You know what I mean? We've got the one who's very open about how she's feeling about the whole scenario, but we've also got the one who's kind of silently working with trying to understand the scenario, which we see with Hayasaka and stuff in Chapter 3. But Gin constantly wanting to, like, protect people that he cares about because Mishima died in Chapter 1, and not really saying it because he doesn't want to look weak. It's a good hook for his character. Also, his design is just wild and super memorable. There's a reason he's, like, the most, like, iconic character from this game, probably. It's just, it's a really good design. I have no idea, like, why all of that, but maybe we'll find out sometime. There's got to be a reason he covers his face and stuff, right? We'll see. I want to do Shin later, but I guess I'll do Shin now. So Hiyori, also known as Shin Tsukimi, is going in S tier. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, or you've watched my other ranking videos, I generally don't like this archetype of character. The, like, chaotic gremlin that messes everything up for the entire group. But they make it so... They, like, flesh out why So is doing it perfectly, I think. Because the idea that someone who's kind of untrusting would look at this scenario, see that Sarah is basically controlling everything, and be suspicious makes way too much sense. Like, if I was in that scenario and I saw that one person out of our group who I had never met before was for some reason trying to gain everyone's trust and was taking control of all the important, like, games that risked everyone's lives, I wouldn't like that either. Because, like, you get on their bad side and you're dead. That's pretty rough. And then the icing on the cake is obviously the fact that they basically manipulated him by telling him that he had a 0% win rate. So he was trying his best to not even be himself anymore, to be much more cold-hearted and stuff. It's way better. Like I said in my videos on the game, he's basically Kokichi done right. Because his morals and his conflict between his morals and his actions makes perfect sense through the lens of the plot. Whereas, like, Kokichi's morals of not wanting to kill anybody comes in direct conflict with the fact that he literally gets somebody killed for his own sake. You know? So yeah, I think Shin is, like, extremely well written. It seems like, you know, secondary protagonist, really. It's such a shame that he dies in Chapter 2. It's really a shame. Because most people would not sacrifice a child. Especially when he's basically begging you to not do it. It's really good. I really like the idea that he's willing to protect Kana, too. Because it goes to, like, further show that, like, he doesn't hate the people in the group. In fact, he cares about the people in the group just as much as you do. The problem is he just doesn't trust you to take care of them. And also Keiji. And you already know how I feel about Keiji, so I can relate with that. Next is Riko. You know, I liked Riko in the first chapter or so, but she really hasn't got anything to do for a while. Even when her brother died, like, what even happened? She just she was sad for the chapter transition, and then she kind of got over it really quickly. I don't know. I guess having everybody, like, have a character arc related to somebody's death doesn't really make sense, but at the same time, you've set it up that way. Like, everybody who entered the game with a companion they knew from life before, especially a sibling, you can't just have them not react when they die. Especially since most of Chapter 2 was discerning what Riko was, and the final evidence was the fact that she doesn't sing songs anymore because they reminded her of her brother, who she didn't want to think about because, you know, she loved him and then he betrayed her in her view, which, you know, it's kind of sad because he probably didn't even kill a real person, but oh well. It would have been really nice to see Kana and Riko's roles reverse to the point where Kana has experience in losing a sibling in this game and could probably help Riko. It would have been perfect, but it didn't really happen. So I'm just going to put her in average. She's not bad. I don't dislike her. She just doesn't really have much to do, which is kind of the running trend for these three. Their character arcs ran out of steam too early, I think. Next is Alice. You know, Alice can go right beside his sister. It would be different, of course, if I had chosen Alice's route. But as it stands, Alice really didn't get to shine. And I feel like these route changes are the same as Danganronpa's FTEs, where they're basically just like locking character development behind a different, the way you choose to spend your time. I don't know. The other problem is Alice just doesn't have any relationships within the group to speak of, other than Riko, who he refuses to talk to. The only person who he ever had, like, any sort of connection to was Shin, and maybe Kyutaro, because they were working together for, like, half a second before Alice decided not to work with him anymore. I don't know. I like Alice, that's why he's an average and not meh, but he's not really, like, he doesn't really have anything to do, so. And we're to the dolls section. First up is Tsumaili. Tsumaili has large Junko energy. I don't think people will disagree with that. I don't know. Tsumaili is probably going to crop up again because, you know, the conflict with Gashu in Chapter 2 means that she's got, like, deeper meaning. I don't know. She's got more importance than might have first come up. So I'm going to put her in B. She's not particularly amazing. Like, she doesn't really change the game in one way or another. But she definitely works as a, like, foil to our hope, you know? She works as someone to drive home the fact that people are going to die. Even though she does do a kind of bullshit kill on Mishima, which Ranger gets killed for later, so obviously there's some discrimination between the dolls and the people in this this game. But maybe that's why she doesn't appear in Chapter 2 for a while. Maybe she had to, you know, go through with the rules and be put on retirement for a little while. That could be. That'd be a good explanation for why she just stops appearing, even though she's kind of important. But yeah, she's alright. She works. She's just not as good as the later Floor Masters. I think Rio Ranger is pretty great. Rio Ranger does what Miley does, but better, in my opinion. The stealing clothes from dead people is a really nice touch. It's evil, obviously, but at the same time, it really drives home, like, the fact that this is a person who's basically taunting you to try to get you all worked up so you'll make a mistake. It's like Tsumaili done better, essentially. Plus, I like the fact that Ranger actually pays consequences for his actions. You know, it makes things more interesting. You know? Next up is Gashu. I don't know, I'll put Gashu up here as well. I don't know why Gashu wasn't, like, introduced before Ranger made his big mistake, but Gashu really, really, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to say it, rather. He changes the game for sure. Like, if Gashu wasn't in charge of the second trial and it was somebody else who wasn't willing to take their own life for the cause, then things would have obviously gone very differently. And the fact that he's that dedicated is kind of, like, it's kind of scary, honestly, right? When it happens, it's kind of just like, oh my god, this is really happening. Thanks, Twitch. Thanks for notifying me right now. Okay. And I also like his confusing character, where on one hand he seems to be trying to help you, but on the other hand, he's definitely trying not to. It's very weird. He wants you to succeed, but he doesn't want you to get it easily. It's kind of a weird place to be for someone who's clearly your enemy, you know? Next is Saflin. Honestly, all three Floor Masters in Chapter 2 are really great. I think because Rhea Ranger and Saflin represent, again, two sides of the same coin. They're foils for each other. Ranger is completely dedicated to screwing with you, while Saflin is completely dedicated to trying to make sure you get through. But both of them want you to keep playing the game, so they're still your enemy. I also really like Saflin's memory eraser machine. I think that's a very interesting concept. Like, if you could erase all your memories of a bad thing happening to you, would you do it? It's an interesting thought. And that Saflin thinks it's the best way forward speaks a lot about Saflin's character, right? I also like that she's super compassionate, but at the same time isn't on your side either. The reason I set these three up like this is they kind of, the three dolls from Chapter 2, I don't know if you can see my mouse, I forgot to check. The reason I set them up like this is because they are foils for each other. Gashu is straight down the middle. He'll do crazy stuff to get in your way, but he also doesn't want you to fail. Saflin really wants you to succeed, but can't really interfere, and Ranger really wants you to fail, but can't really interfere either. So that's very interesting. I think it's a good set. Next is the real Sohiori. Would the real Sohiori please stand up? The problem is I just don't really know much about him yet. He's probably on the same level as Sumaili when it comes to taunting and jeering at you. So I think that probably makes sense to have him there. I don't know. He's not really a character yet. There might be more development to come. In fact, I'm sure there will be. But we really haven't got much yet on him, so he's just going to have to be there. I'm going to move Geen up to S, I think. Because looking at the list, I don't think anybody else is going to be S, and Geen is exceedingly, I think, important to the cast, and I like Geen a lot, so that would be why. You know what, I'm going to move Kana up too. I think that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Next is Megumi Sasahara. Yay, everybody's favorite character, Megumi Sasahara. The only reason I left her down here is because she does get a lot of lines, even though they're all in flashbacks. And it gets us a pretty good read on her character as someone who's basically willing to do whatever to get the job done. And who is super stern all the time, even if she's kind of aloof. I'm just going to put her in average. I don't know. We don't really know that much about Megumi because we never met her. It would have been interesting to have Megumi as a doll. I think that's kind of a missed opportunity. Like, why should the characters that we know of not be dolls? I don't know. I don't know. Just a thought. It would really help us develop the group, I think. But oh well. Maybe that's to come. If the rest of Chapter 3 is going to give us Kana's sister and Megumi as dolls, that could be very interesting. Especially if they were, like, put in the role of, like, floor masters in the same vein as Ranger and Saflin. So, yeah. Next up is Ranmaru. Ranmaru is kind of average. He hasn't really done anything yet. I see people in the comments like, Ranmaru is best boy, but I don't see why yet. You know, he's just kind of chill for the most part. He hasn't really done anything in the story so far, so he's going straight into average. I don't know. I guess it's because out of the dolls, you probably spend the most time with him. Yeah. I don't know. Or it could just be I chose the wrong dialogue options because I was very neutral when I was choosing options with Ranmaru. Next is Mai. I do respect Mai for striking first, you know? And I also like the fact that she's like, probably after she wakes up from this whole thing, we're going to see what she's really like. Because I feel like she's putting on this cloyingly happy personality to try to lure Gyutaro into a false sense of security. And for that, I think she's probably as good as the Floor Masters here. Because she's basically doing the same job. I don't know. I like the concept of having a character who's extremely happy-go-lucky in the face of these circumstances. At least when it's not all of them. Because the problem with Super Danganronpa... Super Danganronpa 2, the actual Danganronpa 2, is the fact that literally everyone is way too optimistic in that game. Like, they mourn the death of their friends for like a minute each day and then go about being goofs. So, it's nice to have most of the characters be pretty serious and worried about the scenario and then have one goof to really, you know, accentuate all of it. It's emotional range, as you would say. Next is Hinako. That's her name. Yep, got it. I thought there was more of them, but there isn't in the dolls. Hinako is actually kind of interesting too. I think I'm going to put her in average though. Again, hasn't got a lot of chances to do stuff, but the fact that when Mai stabbed Gyutaro and Gyutaro didn't kill her, she was like, why would you do that? She's just going to come back and try to kill you again. It's an interesting idea. Plus, if you know this game, empty eyes means they've seen death. Technically, all the dolls should have empty eyes because they all died themselves, but I guess killing another person is a different thing. Because look, Alice has them, Keiji has them, you can't see them, but he does. Kai has them, and I had them for a while. Back when I was seeing Hallucinations of Joe. You know what? Now that I'm looking at it, Saflin also has them. But the other dolls don't. So that's an interesting thing to note. Alright. But the empty eyes are more associated with, like, remorseful killing than they are... You know what? Actually, Sumaili has them as well. With remorseful killing rather than just killing. Because, like, So Hiyori has regular eyes, and so does Gashu, I think. So, you know. Next is Hayasaka. I kind of like Hayasaka. I think he gets a lot of focus in Chapter 3, which is probably why he's higher than the other dolls so far. I like his relationship with Gin, too. The idea that, like, why would he look up to me? You know? And the fact that now that we know that the dolls were meant to kill us, the fact that he said, like, in the beginning, huh, a kid, huh? Great. Makes a lot more sense. Because it's like, well, technically a kid would be easier to kill, but can I do that? And also the internal conflict when Keiji was talking to about how Gin wanted to protect him and how he's actually willing to kind of put his life on the line for Gin now. He's the first doll to have a turnaround so far, you know? The other ones are going along with us for now, but he's the first one who had, like, really an emotional set turnaround where he was like, I can't let this kid die, you know? Kuramada. Yeah. I think Kuramada can go here. Again, not bad. Like, isn't somebody... Well, no, you know what? I'm going to put Kuramada in meh. Kuramada's whole thing is, like, I just charge in, and so I started punching. And he hasn't really had any more range than that. Like, Ranmaru has had a little bit of range, where he's, like, tried to warn Sarah not to do things, and been a little bit touchy on the subject of whether they're allies or not. Hinako had some range when she said, like, you shouldn't have saved her. But Kurumada has just been, I'm gonna punch it the whole time through. Even when the dolls were questioning whether they should join up with us or not, his basic answer was, well, I'm a fighter, so I gotta fight. It's like, yeah, okay, great. Cool. I also wish that he and Kana had more of a anything going on there. Seems how they are partnered up, and they kind of represent opposite ideals. It'd be nice if they got to talk, and they probably will in further chapter 3. But for now, he's a meh. I guess it's the older dudes that I'm just not a fan of in this game. Unless you're evil or have a character arc. That's true. Nah, it's just these three. The troublemakers that I feel uncomfortable around. And then Anzu. Honestly, I gotta put Anzu down here too. I really like Anzu's design. She just kind of feels like, A, she feels like now again. But B, she's done nothing. And, like, nothing at all. Even if you choose her in, like, the mini games against the monsters, none of her options do anything. I don't know. I mean, even Hinako got the chance to stomp the alarm clock in the last one. All Anzu's things do is either, like, stall it from getting herself killed and push up against a bookshelf she can't push over. Yeah. Plus, she gets, like, no speaking lines either. It's like, there's actually a time in the game where I'm like, wait, where's Anzu? And she was there, she just wasn't talking. So I feel like there's going to be some turn with her in the upcoming chapter. But it hasn't happened yet, so I can't really say she's anything more than meh. But yeah, I guess that's my list. Only one no thanks, which shows that this game has some pretty good writing when it comes to characters. It makes all of them at least understandable for the most part, even if I don't particularly like them. But yeah, if I was going to say my top of the top 3, it is Shin. He's just too good. He's just too good of a character. I can't not rank him at the top, you know? So there's my list. I'm sure if you disagree, you will leave a comment down below. I'm extremely sure you will do so. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, all of these, I don't know if you can see them, hold on. Ooh, yeah, I think you can. Hold on. Can't actually tell. Yes, you can. S tier is at the top right now. All of these were also included, but like, I'd have even less to say about them. Like, why would you include the monster from the dancing minigame? Or the freaking alien from whatever minigame that was? Some of these are from mangas that I have not read. The Floor Masters, who had like a collective 2 minutes of screen time. I don't know. I'm guessing these are Rico and Alice's band members. I no clue who that guy is. A literal cat? Like what? Also, the police officer in Keiji's backstory really doesn't have that much going for him in terms of character either. So, you know. I feel like out of all of these, the only one who's ever going to get more character is going to be Maple. Well, actually, also your dad, but Maple first. Alright. Like and subscribe. I've got some more tier lists coming right at you this week, because I'm doing it. I don't know. I just feel like doing it. So yeah, like and subscribe if you want to see more. I will see you next time. Bye!